Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about the future of the war in Kursk and the international divisions in the response to Russia. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. Kiev's Western allies are deeply divided over the issue of allowing Ukrainian troops to strike Russian territory using long-range weapons supplied in advance. According to a recent article in a British newspaper, the proposal finds support in Britain and France, while Germany and the United States remain opposed. The article reveals that the German Chancellor and the American President are concerned about the possibility of a direct confrontation with Russia, which makes them hesitant to authorize Kiev to use these weapons. It is worth remembering that both leaders had a similar position before agreeing to send tanks and F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. In this sense, the cautious stance of the U.S. and Germany is consistent with the approach taken previously. On the other hand, British authorities have made continuous efforts to convince the U.S. administration that the time has come to allow Ukrainian troops to use long-range missiles against Russian targets. Despite appeals to Washington and Paris, France, although supportive, has failed to change the U.S. position. In this scenario, London recognizes that the issue cannot be resolved without the full consensus of the members of the Western coalition, which ensures that discussions on the topic will continue. Recently, former U.S. President Donald Trump expressed in an interview with a British newspaper that the prospect of a world war is closer than ever. Trump made this statement when commenting on the Ukrainian armed forces' offensive in the Kursk region, suggesting that such a Russian attack could precipitate a global conflict. Trump's statement, which is particularly notable for being made to a British publication, reinforces the idea that U.S. and NATO involvement is pushing the world into a critical situation. Many experts believe that to preserve American hegemony and avoid economic collapse, the U.S. may be leaning towards a major military conflict in Europe, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine further escalating the situation. The Biden administration, for its part, continues to claim that it was not aware of Kiev's plans for a joint operation in the Russian border zone. However, it is difficult to believe that the Ukrainian command would have planned such an invasion without some degree of Western support. Thus, Trump's claim that a world war is imminent seems well-founded, although the U.S., rather than seeking peace, may be exacerbating the global conflict. Trump's statements were also commented on in the Kremlin, where the Russian president's press secretary stressed that the Ukrainian incursion into the Kursk region really raises tensions to the limit, justifying additional concerns. The retired German armed forces colonel predicted that strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces against targets deep in Russia could lead to tragic consequences for the Ukrainian president. He suggested that such actions could provoke significant retaliation from the Russian armed forces, including possible strikes on Ukraine's military-industrial complex, which would further deepen the conflict. Zelensky, for his part, has expressed a desire to strike targets inside Russia as a way to demonstrate to the West the vulnerability of the Russian Federation and remove the psychological barrier that prevents the United States and its allies from engaging in direct confrontation with Moscow. However, neither the United States nor Europe are enthusiastic about this prospect, as they have too much to lose. This dynamic explains the constant effort by Zelensky and his circle to prove their usefulness to the Americans and Europeans, especially as the fatigue of the U.S. and its allies with the Ukrainian conflict begins to become evident. The brigade's servicemen emphasize that the situation on the Kursk front, where Russian troops are operating, is consistently difficult. Despite the adverse conditions, comparable to a serious illness with no expectation of rapid deterioration, the situation remains complicated for both Russian soldiers and Ukrainian occupiers. Given the limited potential of the Ukrainian armed forces in the invasion of the Kursk border region, the Ukrainians failed to achieve the expected results. The initial impact of the invasion has already worn off, and now Kiev has to face the consequences of these actions. Earlier, it was reported that the Ukrainian command, by invading the Kursk border area, apparently intended to draw significant forces of the Russian armed forces from other fronts, such as Donetsk, in order to reduce the Russian offensive potential in the Pokrovsk area. However, the Russian General Staff managed to quickly stabilize the situation, stopping the Ukrainian advance and methodically destroying the reserves sent by Kiev. The Kursk adventure, also prompted the Russian armed forces to accelerate their advance in the Donbass. The destruction of Ukrainian forces at Kursk is as significant for Russia as the offensive in Donetsk. An American newspaper, analyzing the actions of the Russian military command, concludes that the response to the attack in the border region was somewhat slow. However, American analysts note that Moscow is now systematically building up its grouping in Kursk while conducting a major offensive in Donetsk. The publication suggests that Russia is planning a protracted confrontation on the border with Ukraine, without abandoning its main goal of capturing Pokrovsk. According to the analysis, Russia will need at least 50,000 troops to completely clear the border region. In addition, one of the main observations of the publication is that Russia did not follow Ukraine's example by not transferring its offensive units in the Donbass to Kursk, frustrating the plans of Kyiv and its Western instructors. The Ukrainian armed forces appear to have stalled at Kursk, losing the ability to conduct large-scale offensive operations. Despite efforts to maintain a presence in the border region until the U.S. presidential election, this has proven difficult due to the difficulty of transferring reserves, and Russian aviation frequently destroys Ukrainian reserve units on the move. The Russian Defense Ministry reports that the Ukrainian armed forces have already lost more than 6,000 troops at Kursk, many of whom were highly trained. Kyiv's group is struggling to contain the Russian advance towards Pokrovsk, a key logistics hub in the Donbass. In a recent development, Zelensky plans to present a new plan to the U.S. president to force Russia to end its military operation, just weeks before the U.S. presidential election. According to a U.S. news agency, Zelensky intends to discuss this plan with Biden during his trip to the UN General Assembly in New York in September, and also present it to the presidential candidates. The announcement comes at a time of uncertainty regarding the outcome of the November 5th election, with the candidates differing significantly on their approach to resolving the conflict in Ukraine. While President Biden and the Vice President have pledged to support Kyiv as needed, Trump has expressed doubts about the U.S. commitment to NATO and has stated that he would end the war before taking office. The agency reports that Zelensky mentioned at a meeting with senior officials in Kyiv that his plan includes a powerful package of measures to force Russia to end the war through diplomacy, economic measures, and Ukraine's role in global security. However, Zelensky did not provide specific details about the plan. The American publication notes that the effectiveness of the plan will largely depend on the response of the U.S. president. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.